got to get to the microphone for the applause ends there. It's rule number 1 whenever you come to do a speaking engagement. I do have it's about a 10-page script, Mike, so it might be an hour and a half or so.
Folks, if you want to leave, it's okay.
I do some of my best work on the post-game shows anyway in basketball when everybody's gone. It's just me and the scorer's table. A few players and parents hanging around. But, welcome, everybody. What a great night to be here. And I do consider you my family, my PAC family. And unfortunately, my family, we're all in different areas tonight. But my wife, Lorelei, is here. The beautiful and lovely Lorelei. A lot of people haven't seen Lorelei. She's right over there. She's my official videographer tonight. I'll be posting that a little bit later. But Lorelei, thanks for being here. Sad to spend many a night at home waiting for meeting at home at 3, 4 in the morning. Sometimes later than that when you're coming back from Silver City or somewhere like that. But I definitely outkicked my punt coverage. Of course, John Riston, former football head coach, he can get that one. When you outkick your punt coverage is what I've done here. I don't deserve it, but thanks, Lorelei. And the rest of my family, they're all in different places. My boy Ryan was going to be here tonight, but he got the word that his wife's uncle had a stage 4 cancer diagnosis, and it kind of hits home with our pink out this weekend, so we're all touched by cancer in some way. So I told him, you stay with the uncle tonight. They're up in Denver. They flew in from St. Paul, so that's why we got Lorelei videoing it. So Carly's up at CSU, Henry's in Eugene, Oregon. So rest of my family, my sister Susie, just out of the hospital this week, diverticulitis. Too much information, I know, but she's home, she's okay, so she's doing good. My brother Tommy, unable to be here tonight, he's looking at either back surgery or a series of shots. So we're all falling apart. Good news is my sister Arlene and my brother-in-law and the rest of the nephews are all up in Springs watching my great-nephew Brady play for Pueblo County. He'll be scoring a few touchdowns for Pueblo County. I had 3 last week against South. We'll give him a pass for that. But, so that's my family update. Brother in California, Chuck, that's a long story. We don't need to go into that, but he's out there in San Diego. My brother Chuck, just say hello to him. What an honor to be here to accept this award here tonight. But really, everybody else that's come before me are the real stars of CSU Pueblo. I mean, just the great athletic achievements they all have. Mike, you beat me to it talking about Matt Morris and what he's done with that track and field program and the cross-country team. It's just phenomenal what they do. And then to be able to sit at the same table with the great Doug Moses, the former head coach here at then USC. This is an absolute legend. It's just great to be in his honor here tonight. Of course, I had the pleasure of calling games with Molly, of course, and Rachel. Rachel, when you became the second all-time leading scorer at Mines, when you had 24 points in that game up there, to become at that point the second scorer. One of the most fearless point guards. Boy, we could have used you the last 2 or 3 years on CSU Pueblo women's basketball team, playing that point guard position. But the key about Rachel, she made everybody better. She got her points, because she could get her points anytime she wanted, but she got everybody else involved, and that was your strongest suit. And then to Molly, I can still hear it. Blocked by Rohrer! Blocked by Rohrer! It was in my, 207 times, I think, total block shots in her career. Just amazing. Plus, the fine art of the hook shot. Nobody shoots the hook shot, but Molly sure did, and she would have become the all-time leading scorer if we could just got one more year out of you, but we understand why. And some of us know, and we can appreciate it, but we thank you for the 3 that you gave to us. It was an absolute pleasure calling probably 95% of your games. There are a few non-conference games I wasn't there, but all those conference games and those titles, thank you. Made my job easier. And we'll talk to you a little bit after. I know you said you don't like this, but we're going to put you on the spot because I need some filler time tomorrow for the broadcast. Rachel as well, so we'll probably get that going here. Tim Simmons, everybody on the committee. Tim Simmons, the big fish back there, bficcc.com. That's how you subscribe to keep up to date on Thunderbolts basketball. I'm just practicing for tomorrow's broadcast. That's one of the goofy ads we do. The big fish. But thanks to everybody on the committee. I'm on the committee, and it took 4 times 4 times. This year I had to leave the room, so I knew it was kind of serious. This year I might get in, but they said, Jim, you need to leave for a little bit. So I thought, oh, man, I might get in this time. So, yes! 4th time was a charm. But, special thanks, of course, to Paul Plinsky, athletic director. Paul's kind of had my back a few times when I've gotten in trouble. Molly, your dad, talking about the referees, terrible, terrible. Well, unfortunately, I said that a few times on the air. But we all know basketball. Mark, I know, I love you. Mark, very basketball kid. But Mark never refs any of our games because the RMAC says, well, he's from Pueblo. Even though every gym we go to in Denver has Denver refs, you can't have a Pueblo reffing a Pueblo game, but when you go to Mines, when you go to Regis, Colorado Christian, there's a bunch of Denver refs. I said, this is not right. But Mark, you go right. Ben Greenberg, sports information director. I want to shout out all the sports information directors through my career. Of course, Dax Larson, Sean Strazikar, and the original Anthony Sandstrom. I think TK is probably the original. TK, were you in 86 to 91? I can't remember. I actually did this in 86 to 91, if you can believe that. That's when Joe Folda was the coach. Joe and I came in together. Mine was different circumstances. We had a broadcaster in town got in trouble, so they said, let's get Jim to do it. And Joe came in late in the year because Drag said he's up and out here, so we got to bring in a basketball coach. They brought in Joe. Joe, if you remember the first broadcast I did, remember where I did it from? Your office. Sorry, because the phone line didn't work courtside, so where are we going to do this game? So in my career, you figure out ways to get the game on. So actually sat up in your office there at the old Masari with that window was about this wide, right there, and called the game on the telephone. That was my first USC Indian broadcast when I was back with the Voice of the Indians. And of course, it was always a pleasure watching Joe yell at Carter Mesa, Doug Scopel, right? You know, why don't you use some of that GD camp money and get some hot water and some towels in this place? You know, I never thought Joe could be Texas like that. You see Joe mild-mannered? Not so much with Joe. Thanks for everything through the years. All the coaches I've had to work with through the years, all the current coaches. I actually taught a class here a couple years back, and so I had to learn to do some lacrosse, which was kind of fun. We did soccer, we did volleyball. It's been great, but the current coaches I want to talk about, Bobby Applegate, the baseball coach, actually started doing baseball the last couple of years. I really enjoy it. That's probably my first passion. Phil Vigil, head football coach, Tommy Johnson, Taylor Ward, Bianca Duran. Former coaches, of course, John Risson here in the house. John, good friend. Love you, buddy. Manhammer, Curtis Lloyd, Kip Drown, Jim Turgeon. I just talked to Jim Turgeon the other day. In fact, I work at Don's Sport Car Salvage Yard here in town. Package. I'm taking it to the mail, and I see Jim Turgeon, someplace in Texas. I go, can't be. Is he there now? So I call him up. He goes, yeah. Small world. So your former coach, Jim Turgeon, actually sent him a package in the mail. All the assistant coaches throughout the years, there's too many of those to mention, but they're the unsung heroes of any program. If you've ever been on a road trip, you go into a hotel room, the head coaches kind of scatter, they go sit down in the chair and kind of go to sleep. They're going, oh God, this bus ride is terrible. The assistant coaches have to get to the hotel room, they do all that, and they do all the hard work, so special thanks to them all through the years of what they've done. Special thanks to Scott Jones, not the Scott Jones from Pueblo, but the other Scott Jones. Well, he is from Pueblo, but I didn't do the games the first 2 years, Mike. I don't know if you remember football in 08 and 09. So in 2010, there was a meeting, and they said, you know, we got to fix this broadcasting situation. I was like, okay, I'm ready. And so Scott Jones, who's now with Cumulus Radio, he's out in California somewhere. But they brought Joe and I in, and then we became the radio voices of the Thunderwolves. And I love football, but my first passion, realized, I mentioned baseball, but we don't do baseball on the radio, but basketball, because Joe doesn't work with me. I'm by myself. So I get to spend 5 hours with all the fans, listeners, anybody's been lucky enough to listen to a ball game. We try to have fun with it, try to paint the picture, and try to convey the passion we have for Thunderwolves athletics. I added this up the other day. Somebody mentioned, wow, how far have you been? And I go, you know, one of my biggest regrets in life is not keeping a journal of all the different travels and trials and tribulations. Molly brought up the bus ride. That was when we were coming back out of Salt Lake City, Game was over. We head up the pass outside of Salt Lake City. It's snowing like crazy. And the bus cannot make it up the pass. It's stuck. There's trucks stuck everywhere. So we just had to park and wait. And so they start sending the tow trucks down the road. And they're going to grab the trucks first, the semis, because they got payload. They got to get, they're making money. We're just the lousy little basketball team out of Colorado. So they made us sit there on the side of the road there outside of Utah or Wyoming, one of those places, all night. One of those trips where we didn't get home until, 23 hours later. I think it was something like that. So that was one of the trips. Other road trips, I'll share one story here with you. When you build relationships in my job, when you're on the bus, and Ralph Turner, the former head coach here at CSU Pueblo, all of us remember Ralph. He was a character in more ways than one, some really wild ways, but Ralph would tend to be on the bus, and me and him, we didn't go to sleep. A lot of coaches, they pass out, or they're into their music or whatever. Ralph and I'd sit there and talk. We'd be philosophical. We'd talk about life, and Ralph would go, Jim, and that Tennessee accent, Jim, what do cows do when they sleep? Do they lay down? And I go, Ralph, I think they lay down. That's wild. So then he'd sit there and think, and then be a blizzard or something around, and he's snowing. He goes, Jim, when this bus crashes and we're all out here on the middle of the road in the field, who do you think they're going to eat first? I go, Ralph, I haven't really thought about it. They're going to eat me, Jim. I taste like bacon. You guys are going to cut me open and eat me. I go, okay, Ralph. I miss Ralph to death. Things didn't work out. Of course, it's a record wins and loss business. So he had to hit the road, and we had Matt Hammer for a while. Matt, we had some great talks too, and some great times. But now we're moving on to get a break in a new coach this year. You ready? You ready for this treatment? You should be ready. It's going to be fun. Some of the other road trips. Of course, now I travel with my buddy Ben Greenberg here, and occasionally Paul Plinsky. Ben's the greatest one-hand driver in the world. You've been to driver's ed, right, where it's 10 and 2? We've all been taught you got to drive 10 and 2. Ben is, if it's 1,100 miles, it's 1,100 miles of one arm. He's a one-arm driver, just like that. And I did see the speedometer. Nobody else, triple figures coming back from Mexico. Paul Plinsky's sound asleep. I'm back asleep going, man, this is crazy. I can't do this anymore. What are we doing? Exactly. One thing Ben never did was be able to talk himself out of a speeding ticket. He's 1 for 1. He got the speeding ticket outside Alamos. Joe Survey, my work wife, as we call Joe, or as we call each other, 10 for 11, talking his way out of speeding tickets on the road. Isn't that amazing? He got one, Officer Torres down in Silver City. Other thing about driving trips with Ben, we're all from Colorado, right? Most of us, a lot of us. When you're driving over a mountain pass, and it's 3 lanes, where do you ride? Where do you drive? You keep right, correct? Not Flatlanders, Paul Plinsky and Ben Greenberg. Right down the middle. They're afraid they're going to drip over the edge one way or another. There's other people on the pass coming the other way. But that's kind of my life on the road, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Covering the Thunderwolves. Some of my best memories and things I always take with me is when a parent or a grandparent or a loved one of any athlete, if I'm sitting at scores, it doesn't happen so much at football because you're away from the action you went from, but basketball, when you're down courtside at Massari Arena and somebody will come over and tap on your shoulder and say, hey, listen to the ball games. I'm such and such as parent, grandparent, uncle. That means the world to me. Because, let's face it, we're Division II. We don't have thousands and thousands of listeners, but the ones we have are passionate. And I try to convey the same passion that they have for the student athletes we have here at CSU Pueblo. I try to convey that on the air. And I've kind of dedicated my life to it. I hope you appreciate it.